What's up, everyone? Chris Halleck here with DK Pittsburgh Sports. Wanted to try to explain this whole Brandon Aiyuk situation because there are a lot of people who seem to be confused over what's going on. So I want to try to help clear the air here, try to explain what exactly is going on, and if the Steelers really do have a legitimate chance of getting Brandon Aiyuk. So let's just this is my attempt at doing this. So bottom line, from the very beginning of all of this, going back to months ago, before the Steelers really even became players for Brandon Aiyuk, the 49ers have wanted to keep Brandon Aiyuk in San Francisco this entire time. That has been their top priority. Obviously, that has not been a reality until recently, because the two sides have not been able to agree on a contract whatsoever. And so it comes down to, hold-ins and trade requests and to essentially where we are now, which is the 49ers still would rather keep Brandon Aiyuk outside of anything else. They don't want to trade him. They would rather sign him long-term than trade him. So they don't want to just be like, okay, Steelers, we have a deal in place, let's trade him. Because the report earlier today, and I was able to get a team source to confirm it, was that the Steelers and 49ers have a deal in place for a potential trade. That all the 49ers have to do essentially is sign off on it. And some people hear that and they're like, if the 49ers still have to sign off on it, then it's not a deal. It's like, no. They have a framework in place so that if John Lynch calls Omar Khan and says, all right, Omar, trade done, the compensation's already agreed upon. That was not the case up until today. That was the case with the Patriots and the Browns previously, but that's not been the case with the Steelers. And the reason why it's important there is because, well, of course, they had a framework, in place with the Patriots and the Browns, the 49ers, that is, and Brandon Aiyuk said no to both of them. So the Steelers have become the 49ers' only real trade partner, and that puts them in a tough situation because the Steelers weren't giving the 49ers what they wanted. They have been negotiating for a long time. You go back to the draft whenever they've been negotiating. But here recently, they've been negotiating and going back and forth for well over a week now, nearly 2 weeks. And so here they are. They've now broken through to the point of compensation is agreed upon. Now it's about, can we make this last-ditch effort to try to sign Brandon Aiyuk? This is from the 49ers' perspective. To try to sign Brandon Aiyuk to a long-term deal, get this done, get this over with, put this behind us, get him back to participating in practices, and become part of the team development? Or do we just say, okay, we have made our offers. They aren't accepting. They've made their counter offers. We can't accept those. We now have no choice but to make a trade. And since the Steelers are our only option when it comes to a trade, at least we have that deal ready for. Essentially, just think about it this way. The contracts are drawn up. The paperwork is drawn up. All that has to be done is for the paperwork to be signed. Everything is agreed upon. It just needs to literally be signed off on. And the thing that's holding that up is the 49ers trying their damnedest to keep Brandon Aiyuk in San Francisco, which has always been, to say it again, their number one priority. So, to recap, the Steelers and 49ers do have an agreement in place. Just making sure, because I just got notifications I've got notifications on all the time. They have an agreement in place for a trade. But the 49ers, before they just decide to say, okay, let's send this over to the league offices and make this thing official, let's try to get this done with Brandon. Let's try to keep him in San Francisco. So the best news for the Steelers right now is that they don't have to keep negotiating for this trade. The pieces are agreed upon, and the only thing that we know about that Team source confirmed to me earlier today is that no first-round picks. The Steelers are not offering a first-round pick in this agreement, in this deal. So if this trade were to go through, the Steelers are not giving up a first-round pick. That's all we know when it comes to the compensation. But might not happen if the 49ers and Brandon Aiyuk can agree to terms. And Mike Garafolo from NFL Network has, I'm recording this video at 8:30 Eastern time right now. And maybe an hour ago, maybe not even that long ago, Mike Garafolo reported that there's essentially one hurdle in the way between the 49ers and Brandon Aiyuk. And that if they can get past that one hurdle, that contract extension's done and he's staying a 49er. So we'll see what happens there. Who knows? But for right now, the Steelers are still in it because Brandon Aiyuk has not officially accepted anything from the 49ers. And if they can't agree on something, then framework's in place for the Steelers and 49ers to make a trade. So I hope that helps. I hope that explains it better. To hear something like, well, there's a deal in place, but there's not a deal yet. What does that mean? I hope this explains it better. Enjoy your night. Try to enjoy your night. I hope we're at least getting closer and closer to the end of this saga, this Brandon Aiyuk saga that constantly having to talk about all the time, probably even more so than actual team development going on. Tomorrow is the last day of training camp. We should be talking about that, but this is obviously a big deal. If the Steelers were able to pull off this trade, this is a huge deal. All right, he immediately becomes the Steelers' best offensive player. It makes them a better team, no doubt about it. So we'll see what happens. But right now, deal in place for a trade to be made, agreed upon terms, but waiting to see what happens with the 49ers and Brandon Aiyuk.